Hello, trend forecasting students. I hope that you are all doing well. I am specifically addressing section A today of trend forecasting. I wanted to connect with you all for a couple of reasons, all with regard to assignment number 5. So the very first reason that I wanted to touch base was really to check in and see how things are going. The next reason I wanted to check in, which is something that I imagine is on many of your minds now as you think about coming into the last couple of weeks of working on assignment number 5, which is the structure of the assignment. So as you hopefully saw, assignment 5 was designed to be a team assignment. I'm coming to you today with an announcement that will now be optional. So there were a couple of flaws in assignment of teams, so you may have seen that. So the first one was that the list was incorrect. It was actually from section B, so you wouldn't have known, wow, who your team members were. I did not realize that this error had been made and was published in section A. Not quite sure how that happened. And then upon correcting it, it was actually not quite a correction. There were people left off from the class roster in the random assignment of teams produced by Canvas. So at this point, we're too close to the finish line with this assignment for me to realistically ask you to proceed with teams that really you would just be learning the full composition of basically today. Today is April 22nd, and the assignment was due on May 3rd. So in fairness to you all and to keep it simple for everyone, what I'm going to do is invite you to do one of two things. You may either choose to proceed with assignment 5 individually, so to complete the assignment on your own if that is most convenient for you. If you would still like to work in a team, you may do so, up to 4 people, and those can be people of your choosing. Okay, so there is a lot of flexibility here. I am really trying to extend some different options to you, especially in light of the error that was made on Canvas. Okay, so I hope that that's helpful, and my apologies to you for the inconvenience there. The other thing that I'm going to do is extend the deadline by 3 days. So it will now be due on Wednesday, May 6th at 11:59. Okay, it was previously due on Sunday, May 3rd at 11:59. So those are the big announcements that I want to make about assignment number 5. But what I also would like to do is take a few minutes to walk you through the components of assignment number 5 in a little bit more detail in a personal way that a video option can allow for, more than just reading through the Canvas module can. At this point, you now have 2 weeks to, come up to the finish line on this project. So my guess is that as you start to finalize your work and to kind of recalibrate your work on this project, whether you decide to, approach it individually or with a team of your choosing, you may have some kind of last minute questions. So this may actually address some of those questions in advance of you even having them. So I hope it's helpful to you. I'm going to share my screen and walk through the different elements of assignment number 5 with you now. Okay, so here you can see the module. In this top part here, you've got an assignment overview area. So this here will be a link to the video that you're currently watching, as well as the basic content of the overview and update announcements will be located in this area here. This is the assignment overview. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that now, okay? So here we can see the write-up of the overview, okay? The objectives of this assignment are really to give you some practice with creating a trend forecast with a specific brand and product line in mind. So you can read those objectives on your own, and then you get into the specific directives. So basically what this project calls for are 4 deliverables. So I'll just walk through them one by one. The first is highlighted here. It's a branded market brief. So basically what this includes is you are developing a little bit of a background on what the brand is that you are forecasting for. So you have two choices here. You can work on an existing brand, or you can develop a fictional brand, one that you've created, made up for this assignment. Okay, so there's pros and cons to both of those. So to make up a brand gives you complete creative freedom and flexibility. To use a brand that exists means there's a wealth of information out there that you can use. So in either case, it's really important that the way you developed every element of this assignment is consistent with the brand that you're using, whether it's made up or not, right? You want to be sure that what you are saying with regard to the elements of this market brief, the concept board, the fabrication assortment board, and the trend recap are all consistent with the brand, okay? So that will make the assignment more authentic, and also show some strategic thought, okay? So the background is, as you would imagine, and as I just sort of just described it, a little bit about what the brand is, who it is, etc. The consumer profile is looking at who the brand caters to. So you're thinking about demographics, psychographics, maybe geodemographics to an extent. Who is the targeted market segment here? What cultural events or current events are influencing this person's buying decisions? What elements of the zeitgeist impact this person? Sales and merchandising, this section here looks at past sales. It looks at merchandising decisions in terms of understanding what items have been really successful, what items have not, because all of those types of data points will inform your forecast, right? And how you develop it through to product development and end use. Then we move into, with that information that you've just developed in the brand and market brief, you'll move into developing your concept. So you will develop a concept board that addresses the trend story overall. What's the concept, the mood, the theme, the color direction, etc. So these are the elements here that are required for that piece of the project. Then you will, from that theme or that concept, you will then develop how this forecast would manifest itself in terms of taking it to market, right? So what the product assortment would look like based on this forecast, okay? So we've heard examples of this in class, right? When we heard Sean McDowell talk about coming up with the concept and then how that was brought through straight to through design and product development all the way to the consumer. That's essentially what you're doing here, right? So you will create a fabrication and product assortment board that will include elements of the fabrication story, so materials, fabrics, textures, trims, details, etc. And then the merchandise mix. What items would be included in the product line here based on this forecast? So this is an opportunity for you to, think like a merchandising team, or to think even like a product development team in terms of the forecast. So this should have imagery of actual products. So there's a number of ways that you could do this. If you or someone on your team, should you choose to work in one, is particularly skilled illustrator, you may use sketches or drawings. If that is not something that you're interested in, you could take a look at technical flats that you could, source from online sources. You could also grab product images sourced online as well. Okay, so there's a number of ways to do that. Then you will kind of tie it all up in a nice neat bow. You'll develop one written trend forecast recap. So this is a narrative, right? So there's basically two visual components and two written components. So the first written component is the branded market brief, which gives us a sense of, what the brand is. And then the two visual components explain to the viewer the concept, and then the merchandise mix and fabrication. And then this final piece in number 5 here is an opportunity to provide a narrative on the trend story and each of its elements overall. Okay, so this is essentially a piece that could function like an abstract, if you will, right? These are the basics of this trend forecast. So a written summary of the trend story and forecast, describe it, discuss its influence, anything else you think is important to the description of the project, and the team or individual's inspiration and reasoning for the trend prediction. You want to include elements about the forecast, including description and labeling, right? What the product or product category, descriptions of the market segment, the specific client. Now, some of these pieces you can refer back to the brand and market brief. So this may be a little bit repetitive here, but I think it's in your best interest to include these elements in the recap because they're important to understand the trend forecast overall. This is not a macro level trend forecast where you're looking at, an entire environment or entire climate or landscape and making big cultural predictions that will then, trickle into specific products or to specific brands. This is you working with a specific client, right? A specific brand that has a consumer. So it's important to speak to that brand and to that person, especially as you're creating a narrative like you are in the trend forecast recap here. Where the final product is sold, department stores, specialty stores, etc. And then of course here is a place where you could include your sources, okay? So those are the elements that are included in the final project, okay? Or excuse me, in assignment number 5. So trend forecast recap, product assortment board, concept board, and you will have started with the brand and market brief as your launch pad. So hopefully that's relatively straightforward. If you have questions on that, please feel free to reach out. So as we move through the assignment number 5 module, you'll see that we get into some resources, okay? So a guide and a sample. So we'll take a quick look at each of those, okay? So this is the guide that you're looking at right now. This is some actual work that has been marked up with a direction on how to create your project, okay? So you can look for the writing in red for the most part with notes on how you might take inspiration from these sections of this project for your own work, okay? Hence this being the guide. So you can take a look through that to get some ideas. The one thing that I need to say about this guide is that you will see some things in this project that are not necessarily included in your assignment directives, okay? And that's simply because the assignments do change from semester to semester and from instructor to instructor, right? The basic essence of the project is there, but certain things may be tweaked, okay? In our case, ours is a bit more streamlined, okay? So there may be fewer things that you're required to do than you see here. If you're inclined to do a little bit more because you're excited about the project, by all means, but I don't want you to be nervous looking at this guide. Always refer back to the directions for the bottom line on what you're responsible for. Here is a sample. Okay, so this is a sample of what this project in its final format looks like for submission. Okay, so you can look at that and get some inspiration. Be mindful of the same thing I just said about the guide. Not everything that you see in this is required of the spring 2020 version of this project, okay? So just use it as a springboard and as inspiration, but not as, a set of what you're responsible for this project. Okay, so back to our module. So assignment questions and contact information is here. So this is a Q&A forum, much like the other Q&A forums in our other modules. You can post items here and get answers to them both from me and from peers. This is information on scheduling in a meeting with me about assignment number 5. And then finally, the assignment submission. Okay, so this is the Dropbox. So this is where you will submit those deliverables, right? The items that we just discussed. Okay, this has been updated to reflect the extended deadline, as well as the fact that you can either submit as an individual or as a team. Now, this is the final component of assignment 5 that I want to take a minute to talk about, okay? So we will generate a discussion based on the work that you do on assignment number 5. I'm asking for each individual or team to post in a discussion forum the concept board that they developed only. You do not need to post the other components, just the concept board. So if you post those by the same day the project is due, May 6th, at midnight. Everyone can have a look, have a reaction, etc. And then you will respond. Each student is responsible, whether you work in a team or not. Each student is responsible for responding to at least 2 other people by the final deadline for this project, which is Sunday, May 10th at midnight. So that is